This is Lisa Tucker, a host of The Book Cover, which showcases local literary personalities. So listen to The Book Cover on the borderline. And remember, don't judge a book by its cover. Hi, you're listening on The Borderline. This is The Book Cover, and I'm Lisa Tucker. And today I have Kelly Godson. Welcome, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And I spoke to you a little bit before we started. I'm really excited to talk to you today because this is really, this book is up my alley. I love the fantasy part of it. And would you say it's young adult?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so the book is Under the Midnight Sun, and this is your first book.
That's right.
And it was published independently, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I guess we'll call it your day job. What is your day job?
I'm a public health nurse for Algoma Public Health for the last 21 years.
Okay, so pretty far away from writing.
Yes.
Almost as far as you can get. What prompted you to write? Have you always wanted to write? Was there an event that happened? How did it happen? How did this happen for a public health nurse?
Well, it's a little bit of both. When I first graduated from university in 1985, I started working and saved enough money to go backpacking for 3 months in 1988 in Europe and Scandinavia.
Okay, this is where the Norway comes in.
That's right.
Okay.
And I do have relatives that live in Norway. My grandmother was directly from a place called Bardu. And I happened to meet my second cousin and went all around Narvik with her. And then I met some other people while I was on the train in Norway, and we went to a place called Flam. I was there for all of about 12 hours. I loved it. We walked 20 kilometers back to a place called Myrtle. And that stuck in my head for the next 20 some years until I finally started to write the book in 2019.
Wow, so it's because this was released in 2023, so it took you about 4 years to get it together.
Yes, once I started writing, but all through the past from 88 on, I was writing different chapters and thoughts about it, and it's changed a lot.
Oh, sure. Well,
Over
you
time.
changed a lot as a writer, right?
Right.
Yeah. So half the book is in, I guess, anywhere America.
Right. I put North America because I didn't want to either put it in Canada or the United States because really the book only just starts there and then they go to Norway. So I didn't specify.
Right. And when the plot is in Norway, do you use real life places that you visited?
Well, there's Flam, yes,
Yes.
and that is a real live place, and the campground there is actually a campground,
So
not
people
owned
can
not
relate.
owned by that person.
No, but there is such a place that now has come to life in this book.
Yes, and I actually in 2016 went back there again, and I'm going again this year.
Oh, very nice. And you're going to bring a whole bunch of books with you.
Yes, and I plan to drop them on trains everywhere I go so people can read it.
I think that's a fabulous idea. You should have a book launch there with your relatives. They should set that up for you.
That would be a great idea.
I think so. And is it Norwegian? Is that the language?
Yes, it's written in English, but yes, it's Norwegian.
So how hard would it be to get your book translated into Norwegian?
Well, I guess I'd have to talk to my cousin and see what the options are.
That would
I'm
be,
not fluent in Norwegian myself.
yeah, something this specific, you'd need somebody that sort of has the full handle on Norwegian and English.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, if you describe this book to somebody that maybe picks it up and thinks, what is this about? How do you describe this book?
I describe it as a suspense fantasy young adult. Um, it's part in real time and it's part in Well, you'll have to read it, but it's part in fantasy.
Right. And that's the part that intrigued me. I love fantasy now, and this is the trick with a fantasy book. You don't want it too outrageous and just fantasy for the sake of being fantasy. And you want that fine balance. It
Hmm.
can't be too much. And I like you really put some real I'll say real shit in your book because at one point there's a death by drunk driver.
Yes.
And now, what made you put that into the book? Hopefully, I'm asking, but hopefully, it's not personal experience.
No, I've not had anybody killed by a drunk driver that I'm aware of in my family,
Right,
but I think it is a real problem. And I wanted to highlight that. Also, they say when you're writing to put your primary character having a tragedy in their life, and that was how I decided to use that.
right. And how did you come up with that specific tragedy, though? Like, had there been something in the news, or had that always, intrigued you? How did you pick that one? Because there's a million tragedies you could have picked from.
Right. I needed something that was sudden, impactful, and I see in the news almost every day there's drunk driving going on or driving under the influence of drugs. And I just really think that that's something that we need to call attention to. So many lives have been lost by drunk driving that it's just super sad.
Right. Agreed. I agree. Now you mentioned, you looked up, it's important to have your primary character have a tragedy. Where did you find this information? Like, did you go through because obviously your background is not in writing? Did you have to sort of teach yourself how to write?
Yes,
And
I
how?
did a
Yeah.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
didn't take any courses or anything. I just always loved English in high school. And when I started to write, some days wasn't so great, so I'd put it away. And then other days it just sort of flowed, and that's how it was created.
Right. And well, we'll have to give a shout out. Now, I'm assuming you went to Boarding.
No, I went to the Dun
Oh, you went to
actually.
the Dun. And did you have a special English teacher at the Dun?
Mr. Casey.
Okay. There's always that. That's one thing I like to ask because there's that one teacher that sparks the passion. And whether you go into the sciences or computers or something else, there's that one teacher that may have sparked that English, that love for the English language, the art for the spark of creative writing. Um, so we'll give him it was a sir, Mr. Casey, you said?
Mr. Casey,
Mr.
yes.
Casey, okay, from the Dun. Well, shout out to him, or his family. So you started writing it in 2019, but you had sort of already been writing it in your mind. It sounds like for the past 20 years.
Right, I would sometimes sit down and write a few pages and throw them in the box, and I kept doing that over the years until one day somebody said to me, "Well, you got all these things in a box. Why don't you just write it?" And I said, "You know what? You're right." And that day I started.
And what kind of dedication? Because you have a full time job. So what kind of time per day did you donate or did you give to writing?
There was no plan. When I felt I had time, I'd sit down and write. Sometimes on a weekend, I'd write for 8 hours.
Oh wow,
Sometimes it was an hour here and there.
right. And the fantasy part of the book, where did that come from? Did you now, of course, again, Norway plays a huge part in the book. Did you
Hmm.
go back? Is there some Norwegian fairy tales or folklore or wives' tales that you pulled from, or did this all just come from your head?
No, I did some research into Norwegian mythology, and I had my cousin, I would ask her questions about stories she'd heard as a child living in Norway. And so I pulled from that, and that's how I created the different places that they go to.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Did now have you sent the book to your cousin who helped out?
Yes, actually,
And
to both of them.
what did they think of it?
They haven't given me any feedback.
Uh-oh. That either means I haven't read it yet or maybe they don't want to. I mean, you know what? It's hard to read about your own area,
Right.
so maybe it doesn't pull the same punch for them as it made for me, who's never been to Norway, and this is all a very exotic landscape.
Hmm.
Right. Um, Now, the cover of your book is gorgeous, and I think on our website we're going to try to have the cover. Now, I know you. Which independent publisher did you go with?
You mean who did the
Yeah,
cover?
yeah. Well, who published the book? Which company published the book?
I published it on self-published on Amazon.
On Amazon. Okay. And then, how did you get that cover? Because it's gorgeous.
I asked my niece, who is very artistic, to come up with something, and she did graphic layering and sent me several different ideas, and that was the one I picked.
Wow, it's beautiful. And is this what she does for a living?
No, no, she's actually a writer as well.
Okay.
She's now living in San Diego, but she was in Japan at the time.
Oh, wow.
And she has a web design business that she just started.
Okay, so she has a certain specialty.
Yes.
And how did you convey to her? Did you tell her the summary of the book? Did you give her the book, or did you say, "I want the most colorful tree that you can do"?
Well, it's based on a tree called the Yggdrasil tree, and that's in Norwegian mythology as well. And if you'll notice at the bottom of it, if you have a color copy, you'll see little lights on what looks like the roots.
Yes.
And to me, that was the pathway of the beings going from one world to another world.
Wow. And did you verbalize this to her, or did she just know to do that?
No, I asked her to make it look like little lights.
Okay.
Um, but she looked up Yggdrasil tree and then she created her own version of that.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It looks very professionally done. It looks like a professional artist has done this tree, and the tree does look otherworldly in the cover. It looks like an otherworldly fantasy tree. So I guess she hit it right. I'm gonna have to look up this tree that you're talking about to see what other renderings of. But this looks great. I mean, did you see this and say, "Wow, that's exactly what I need"?
Yes, that's exactly what I said to her. That's beautiful, and I will tell her that you said so.
Yes, it's great. Well, you're going to tell her to listen to the podcast is what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Now, so you've done this one book. Do you think that you have satisfied your writing urge, or are there others coming?
Oh, there's more coming.
Same characters?
Yes, I'll be doing a trilogy of this, and
Okay.
then I have probably another series I'm going to do, which is totally different.
Okay. Are you able to tell us not details, but are you able to tell us ish what the other trilogy will be about?
It's about a young girl as well,
Mhm.
and it'll be a YA,
Okay.
and she is actually a witch that has several different powers, and she's called, for lack of a better word, it may not be like this, but called the One.
Mhm.
And of course, there's going to be a dark entity that's chasing her down once her powers come into effect. That's all I'm going to give you.
That's, that's enough. I know. I worked as in the library for almost 20 years, and I know that young adults gobble that stuff right up. Like anything, it's the Twilight effect, right?
Yes.
Anything that fantasy mythology come to life.
Hmm.
It's great. Now, why did you decide to do YA rather than a children's book or an adult book?
Well, children's books mostly you're gonna need pictures, and I'm no artist.
Okay. It's good to know what you can't do too.
Right?
Yeah.
Adult, I don't know. Maybe I. identify more with the YA section.
Right. And really, with my experience, the only difference between a YA and an adult book is there's very little, if any, and it's very mild sex, and the same goes for violence.
There is some violence in there
Mm-hmm.
by yes,
But
there
is
is
it
quite a
just?
bit,
But
but
it's not describe like it's not a full description.
a little bit here and there, but not anything too visceral.
Right. So the young people will not be traumatized.
No, and it's implied sex, not graphic sex,
That's
and
right.
there's I think only a couple swear words in there, but not really bad ones.
Right. And what I would tell people who would come for books, see, YA serves between, it could be between 10 or 11 right up to 18 and up.
Right.
And I always told parents at the library, if they're an advanced reader and they're 10 or 11, go to the YA section, look at what the book is, because there may be a little bit more mature topics. Like, I don't know if a 10-year-old or, maybe an advanced 9-year-old is ready for those sort of more mature topics. But that's really the difference between a YA and an adult. It's just subdued a little bit. It's blurred.
Right. I do have a friend that has read the book, and she is a 9-year-old, and we just actually chatted about the other day that she plans to read it with her daughter.
See, that's a fabulous idea. And it sounds like it's a book that will entertain adults as well. Like, I really want to read this, and I'm not just blowing smoke. This is something I think I'd like to read. It's
Well,
very it 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 sort of reminds me of like a YA Game of Thrones, in that, I don't know if you're familiar with the series, but Bran.
yes, I've seen it.
Okay, Bran and the tree people, and this tree
Hmm.
is so significant in your book.
Right.
Yeah. So it's but is it all is it all happening in present time? You mentioned something about time earlier.
Well, I'm not going to say
Oh, okay, you don't want
because
to ruin it.
that is going to be something in the next book that you're going to have to deal with.
Oh, a little bit. You don't want to spoil it.
No,
Okay, I'm gonna have to get it. So the next book, have you started working on it?
not quite. I have the idea of what the outline is going to be, but I haven't actually written much of anything yet.
Well, okay. This is the deal, Kelly. If I read the first book and you haven't even started the second book, I will be hounding you on a monthly basis, because I'm one of those people that I don't start a series unless they're all done, because I
Yeah.
need to read the next one.
Okay, well, I'll
So you're going to
remember
be in
that
big
when I
trouble.
start.
You're going to be in big trouble if I start reading this, because it sounds like something I'm really going to like. And because you're using the same characters, I love that rapport that you make with the characters, and if they're carried on from one book to another, that rapport that you make, and you really become involved in these characters' lives.
Yeah, they feel real to me.
Well, they are, because they're in your head. They come from you. They are,
Hmm.
yeah, sure they do. Sure they do. Do you have you had teenagers?
Yes, my kids are in their late 20s, early 30s now.
So did you use some of the experiences with your teens when they were teens for this book?
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I did some of the language, I think, and the behaviors, but the
Not
one thing that I
personalities.
really wanted to focus on for the primary character is her strengths
Mm-hmm.
and her ability that she has. And
And
I'm not giving too much away to
oh,
say that
I was
she
gonna
took a
ask, what is the ability, but you don't want to tell me.
no, no. She takes fencing.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And the other thing I learned from someone is that your character not only has to have a tragedy, but they also have to have a skill. And so I gave her fencing as a skill, and you'll see why as you get into the book.
Ah, okay. See, now you're really making me want to read this. But I'm telling you, if I read it, I'll be texting you once a month at the very bare minimum to
Okay.
hurry the hell up and write your second book.
Okay.
um so you did it. You did this you self-published. How did you find that process?
It was a bit challenging because I am not one for, they have you put it on a certain frame, for the lack of a better word, or transcript, and that was a bit difficult. Also, choose my sister. I'll give a big shout out to my sister Christine. She spent a lot of hours helping me edit.
A good editor is very, very important.
Hmm.
What does your sister do for a living?
She works at the Bug Lab, actually.
All these scientists and people in sciences doing this creative work, where does it come
Hmm.
from?
Well, I don't know, but I always loved writing as a child. I still have some of the stories I wrote in elementary school,
Oh, wow.
and they weren't actually that bad.
Even reading back, even reading back since, from back then, they're, well, you know what? Good for you. I read some of my stuff from high school and I cringe because it's all sad poems about the boyfriend that I lost. So good for you.
I have some of those too,
Oh,
but we won't
good.
talk about that.
Oh, good. I don't feel so embarrassed then. Now you mentioned you have adult children. Have they read the book?
My son has read most of it because he's been doing some of my social media, because I'm not very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
He's done some short clips for me on Facebook and Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's done a fabulous job. My daughter said she liked it.
Good. Good. Kids
My
are the
mother's read it.
worst.
She said she really liked it.
Oh, good. That's really good. So it's almost like a family affair. You really got people, I mean, between editors and the artwork, everybody's sort of in family.
Yeah,
Well, that's wonderful that you had the
work
support of your
comes
family.
cheap.
You're darn right it does. Have you done any type of media for the book? Like, have you, other than what we're doing today, did you have any type of a book launch where you did a book signing, or have you gone to the library or in schools at all?
Actually, there's two copies, one in each library in the Sioux.
Very nice.
There's two copies in Wawa,
Awesome.
and I've done some vendor events
Mm-hmm.
and sold my book there,
In Wawa
along with,
or in Sault Ste. Marie?
no, in Wawa.
In Wawa. And are you like a big deal in Wawa? Because I know there's like, what's the population?
3,000.
Okay. So you're probably a pretty big deal there.
I
I'm
don't know if I'd say that.
I'm guessing, Kelly, that you walk down the street and people are whispering, "There's that author."
Mm, no, I
No,
don't know.
not even the goose. The goose must whisper something.
Oh yeah, all the time.
um, would you ever consider doing? Now, you said for children's books, you're not an illustrator, so you're definitely not going to do that. What about an adult book? Not an adult book as in an adult book, but regular fiction.
I haven't really thought about doing that. I'm not really the, murder mystery kind of gal.
Right.
I like more of the fantasy realm, the feel good kind of things. Hero wins. That's kind of my idea.
Okay. And what's your favorite? Do you read recreationally?
I read everything.
Do you have a favorite couple of favorite authors you can mention?
Well, my authors are really old.
That's okay. They're still authors.
Barbara Taylor Bradford, I love her series.
Yes.
I've read almost every Nora Roberts out there.
Yes.
Let me think. What do I have? I have 7 books on my nightstand right now.
Of course you do. Okay, you're a bibliophile. I figured it out.
Right.
So you read murder mystery, but you don't want to write it.
No.
Isn't that funny? I don't want to read Canadian literature, but that's what I write.
Oh,
Isn't that funny how it works out? Have
I've read a really good fiction over the last while called The Spoon Stealer, and that's based in Canada, and it was really good.
oh, who's the author? Do you know? Do you remember?
No,
You don't. It's called The Spoons Dealer.
The Spoon Stealer.
Oh, very cool. Okay, I'll have to look that up. And have you ever considered doing anything? Being that you're Algoma public health nurse, anything a COVID esque, like a pandemic breaks out and you're a public health nurse and there's something that happens and oh my God.
No, too close to home. I
Yeah.
think I'll leave that for Dr. Elder.
Right, Dr. Elder. Yeah. And he's doing a great job of it. I think he's on his fifth book now. But
Yeah.
yeah, you know what? During between 2020 and 2022, I'm sure that your whole life was like a horror movie.
Well, it was very difficult, yes.
Yes, I'm sure. Did you get a lot of writing done during
Well,
the
that's,
lockdowns and?
yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was still working from home, but I did when I wasn't working.
So you were working, so you probably didn't skip a beat then.
No, because I worked in immunization for a good portion of it.
Oh wow. So were you part of the crew? Like, did you always work in Wawa, or did you come to the zoo to do some of the GFL immunizations?
No, I didn't move here until last December. So, yeah, I was right in the mix of things.
Okay. Wow. Well, what a great job everybody did at with the mass vaccinations. It was
Yeah.
smooth. It was relaxed, and it wasn't stressful at all.
Yeah.
So I thank you and your colleagues for that, for
Oh,
sure.
you're welcome.
Yeah. And have any of your colleagues read your book?
Yes, my manager, when I changed programs, she read it. A few people at work, yes.
That's so cool. That would be very cool to have your colleagues read something that, Wait, now, if you're like other authors, when you first sent that finished product away to get bound, and I guess you did Amazon, so when you first sort of clicked send or whatever you clicked, did you have that fear?
Yes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I noticed that a lot of writers do that because you're opening yourself up.
absolutely. To criticism,
Yep.
to trolls, all
Yep.
sorts of things.
Yeah. And you're putting out into the world this almost like a child.
Right. The thing with Amazon, though, is there's so many writers on there. Unless you do a lot of advertising, it's very difficult to get noticed.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So you're on Amazon, that's where people can get your books. Are there any places in Algoma that people can go and get a print copy?
The East End Pharmacy in Churchill Plaza has some.
Okay.
That's the only place so far.
That's the only place. And Wawa, there's no place that you can pick up a copy?
Not yet, but in the summer I plan to ask Young's General Store, Fenland's, and a few other places.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you'll have to get some for Stone's office. They have a little bookshelf of
Oh,
local
okay.
authors that they sell there. They're a huge supporter of local writers, local authors. And it's nice to have them in one spot. So you'll have to put one or two in there as well.
Okay.
And I'm glad to know that it's at the library so I can go and check that out.
The thing I want is I didn't do this to make a lot of money. I did it for people to enjoy it.
And you know what? I think that makes her a great author because you've got this pure um, intention, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Well, thank you so much. So Amazon.com and .ca.
Yes.
Is it available on any other platforms online?
Not yet, but I'm working on it.
Okay. And your Facebook page is Under the Midnight Sun, and you'll see the picture of the beautiful tree. So you'll know when you found it, when you see this amazing illustrated tree.
Yes.
And you do have Instagram page, but not quite up to what you'd like it to be.
Right. There's not a lot of posts on there.
Okay. I just want to make sure everybody knows where they can pick up a copy or download a copy if they are interested. This is amazing. I'm actually, as soon as I get off the phone with you, because you are coming live from Wawa today, as soon as I get off the phone with you, I'm going to put a copy on hold at the library.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait to read that. Thank you so much, Kelly. This has been great. Kelly Godson, her first book, Under the Midnight Sun, came out in 2023. You can get your copy on Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, and I guess East End, Churchill Plaza. Is it the Pharmasafe?
Yes, the Pharmacy.
The Pharmasafe at Churchill Plaza. Thanks so much, Kelly Godson.
Oh, you're welcome. Very nice talking to you.
Awesome. This has been Lisa Tucker. You're listening to The Book Cover. We've been talking with author Kelly Godson on The Borderline. And remember, don't judge a book by its cover.
Hi, it's Kelly Godson here. I'm the author of a novel called Under the Midnight Sun. It's a young adult based in Norwegian mythology, and this is where your fantasy starts. So happy reading, and I hope you enjoy the adventure. Under the Midnight Sun is available on Amazon.ca, Amazon.com, in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. It's also available in Sault Ste. Marie at the East End Pharmacy in Churchill Plaza. Be sure to listen to Lisa Tucker on The Book Cover, wherever you get your podcasts.